Welcome everyone to another quick tutorial on understanding cyber threats. Today we're looking at the letter C because C is for CryptoJacking. Now, to understand what CryptoJacking is and how it works, we first need the basics of cryptocurrency. So what is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is simply digital money that can be used to pay for goods and services similar to any other form of currency. Bitcoin, Monero, Ethereum, they're all examples of this. Unlike other currency, cryptocurrency is not controlled by the banks. Instead, it uses complex mathematical algorithms or blockchain to validate and secure every transaction made. Now, it's possible to earn cryptocurrency. You download a piece of software that proves the legitimacy of all these transactions by solving mathematical problems. Every time you solve an equation, you get a reward paid out in cryptocurrency. Solving these mathematical calculations requires a massive amount of processing power, and this will exhaust the resources of most computers that attempt them. So instead of running it on their own systems, a malicious actor will steal the processing power of other people's computers by covertly installing the crypto mining software and then just siphoning off any earnings. Adversaries will distribute this type of software through weaponized mobile phone apps, by infecting websites, and by hijacking Wi-Fi hotspots. Any computing system that is online is at risk. Mobiles, smart TVs, gaming consoles, you name it. The next question then is, will I notice if I have this kind of software installed? And the answer to that is yes, most likely. CryptoJacking will degrade system performance because all your bandwidth and processing resources are being monopolized by the software. You'll most likely see increased power consumption. You might see system crashes, and in the most extreme cases, you might see physical damage from component failure due to the heat generated from this sort of processing. The consequences of cryptojacking include financial losses because your systems go down, because of the increased power consumption, and because the sanitization and recovery of systems is time-consuming and expensive. So how do I mitigate the threat of cryptojacking? Well, the first thing you can do is maintain antivirus software. This will detect and remove unwanted programs before they do damage. A network-based intrusion detection system will also flag something untoward happening on your network. Nor do these systems have to cost an arm and a leg. Consider, for example, Snort, which is free to download and has a massive community supporting it. It's also important to keep your operating system and software up to date so that hackers can't use known vulnerabilities to compromise your system in the first place. Just as important is using strong access controls. All users should employ strong passwords such as 3 random words, potentially separated with upper and lowercase letters or symbols. 3 random words not only acts as a passphrase, which is easier to remember, it also gives you quite a lengthy password, which makes it almost impossible to crack. Highly privileged operations or remote access to a network should require multi-factor authentication, such as a PIN being sent to a mobile device, as well as requiring a password. This dramatically decreases the chances of unauthorized access. Finally, there should be no default accounts or default passwords on your system. If you're a network manager, you've got to check system privileges. If employees only have access rights they absolutely need to perform their job function and no more, you will exponentially decrease the chances of a compromised account doing harm on your network. For example, none of your users should be able to install software. As an administrator, never log in with full credentials unless you absolutely have to, and be especially wary of systems that are connected to the outside world. Remember, IT staff rarely need full administrative privileges. Further granularity is usually possible. It's also important to apply application whitelisting. Using something like App Blocker means that only pre-approved software can run on your network. It's also a good idea to remove any deprecated software, as this will greatly reduce the attack surface. A good firewall will also protect systems exposed to the outside world. Just remember to configure firewalls according to vendor guidance and best practice. You can always run a free vulnerability scanner to check that all the right ports are secured and that your network is in pretty good shape too. Consider OpenVAS, for example. Most medium-sized organizations will invest in DNS filtering. Simply put, you pay a subscription fee to have all your internet traffic routed through a third-party specialist. This provider will use cutting-edge technology and also massive open-source intelligence to filter out malicious websites. You can also achieve something similar by training staff to understand the dangers of poor surfing habits and unsanctioned downloads. However, if the ability to download is required, then employees should only use trusted sites, and they should check site reviews and the number of downloads as standard. Finally, make sure your staff know how to use and respond to antivirus messages so they don't put the organization at risk. It is also important to make sure that all employees are using up-to-date browsers that are configured to block pop-ups and stop harmful redirects. This can be achieved by using the system settings. If I was a network administrator, I'd want to benchmark what's happening on my network. I want to know what services are running and how system resources are being used. Knowing what normal looks like means that I can spot anomalous activity quickly and respond effectively. Lastly, if you've got any form of company website, that website needs to be scanned for vulnerabilities. There are lots of open source tools that can do this for you. In particular, make sure that any form of user input is validated, even if they're just entering a username and password. That way, if anyone tries to enter malicious code to attack the systems that sit behind the website, you're protected.